The morning sun cast long shadows across the polished floors of St. Luke's Medical Center in Bonifacio Global City. Manny Pacquiao sat in the waiting area, his weathered hands clasped together, watching the steady stream of nurses and doctors moving through the corridors with practiced efficiency. The familiar sounds of a busy hospital, the soft beeping of machines, hushed conversations, and the occasional page over the intercom created a backdrop that felt both comforting and unsettling. At 55, Manny had grown accustomed to regular medical checkups. Years of professional boxing had taken their toll on his body, and his team of doctors had been monitoring various aspects of his health with increasing attention. Today's appointment was supposed to be routine, just another follow-up to ensure everything was progressing well after his recent retirement from competitive boxing. Dr. Ricardo Santos, a renowned neurologist who had been working with Filipino athletes for over 2 decades, emerged from his office and approached Manny with a gentle smile. The doctor's expression was professional yet warm, the kind that had put countless patients at ease over the years. Manny rose from his chair, offering a respectful nod as they walked together toward the examination room. The consultation began like many others. Dr. Santos reviewed Manny's recent test results, asking about his daily routines, sleep patterns, and any concerns he might have been experiencing. Manny described his typical days, training sessions with young boxers at his gym in General Santos City, time spent with Jinky and their children, and his various business commitments that kept him traveling between Manila and his hometown. As the examination progressed, Manny noticed subtle changes in Dr. Santos' demeanor. The doctor's questions became more focused, his note-taking more detailed. When he began explaining the results of the latest brain scans and cognitive assessments, his voice carried a weight that hadn't been there at the beginning of their conversation. The medical terminology flowed over Manny like water, words about neurological changes, cognitive function, and long-term implications. Dr. Santos spoke with careful precision, explaining how decades of professional boxing, despite all the protective measures and medical supervision, had left their mark. The scans revealed signs that were not uncommon among former professional fighters, but significant enough to warrant serious discussion about the future. Manny absorbed the information with the same composure he had shown in countless boxing rings. His face remained calm, though his mind began processing the implications of what he was hearing. This wasn't about immediate danger or urgent medical intervention, but rather about understanding how his body and mind might change in the years to come. The doctor explained the importance of monitoring, lifestyle adjustments, and preventive measures that could help maintain his quality of life. Regular exercise, though perhaps not the intense training regimens of his fighting days, would remain important. Mental stimulation, social engagement, and stress management would all play crucial roles in his ongoing health. As Dr. Santos continued his explanation, Manny found his thoughts drifting to his family. He pictured Jinky at home, probably organizing something for the children or managing one of their business ventures. He thought about Jimule and Michael, both young men now with their own aspirations and dreams. Princess, Queen Elizabeth, and Israel still needed their father's guidance and presence as they navigated their teenage years. The weight of responsibility he had always carried, first as a provider climbing out of poverty, then as a champion representing his country, and now as a father and husband, felt different in this moment. It wasn't heavier exactly, but more precious somehow, more urgent in ways he was still beginning to understand. Dr. Santos assured him that with proper care and attention, many people lived full, productive lives with similar conditions. The key was awareness, preparation, and making informed decisions about the future. This wasn't an ending, but rather information that would help shape the next chapter of his life. The elevator descended slowly from the 15th floor, carrying Manny through moments that felt suspended in time. Each floor that passed seemed to represent another layer of processing the information Dr. Santos had shared. The medical reports tucked carefully in his jacket pocket felt heavier than any championship belt he had ever carried. Through the elevator's glass walls, he could see the sprawling cityscape of Manila, a view that had always filled him with pride and purpose, but now carried additional meaning. Walking through the hospital lobby, Manny observed the faces around him, patients arriving for appointments, families waiting anxiously, medical staff moving with quiet determination. He wondered how many of them were receiving life-changing information today How many were learning to adjust their expectations and dreams based on medical realities they had never considered before? His driver, Angelo, waited patiently by the black sedan in the hospital's pickup area. The man had worked for the Pacquiao family for nearly 8 years and had developed an intuitive understanding of Manny's moods and needs. Sensing something different in his employer's demeanor, Angelo opened the car door with extra care and asked about their destination with gentle concern in his voice. The drive back to their Makati residence gave Manny time to reflect on the conversation with Dr. Santos. The doctor had been thorough in explaining that while the neurological changes were significant, they didn't necessarily mean immediate dramatic changes to his daily life. However, they did require careful monitoring and gradual lifestyle adjustments. Some activities might need modification, certain types of stress should be minimized, and regular follow-ups would become even more important. As Manila traffic slowed their progress, Manny found himself studying the familiar sights with new awareness. Street vendors calling out their wares, jeepneys packed with commuters, children playing basketball on makeshift courts between buildings, all of it represented the Philippines he had fought to represent with pride throughout his career. Now he wondered how much longer he would be able to engage with these communities in the same way he always had. The thought of telling Jinky about the medical consultation weighed heavily on his mind. Throughout their marriage, she had been his anchor through countless challenges, the pressures of professional boxing, political campaigns, business ventures, and the constant demands of public life. Her strength had often been the foundation that allowed him to face whatever came their way. But this felt different, more personal and uncertain than the clear-cut challenges they had navigated before. He considered how to approach the conversation with his children. Jimuel and Michael, now adults, would want to understand the implications and how they might support their father. The younger children, Princess Chakan, Queen Elizabeth, and Israel, would need age-appropriate explanations that wouldn't cause unnecessary worry while still preparing them for potential changes in their father's capabilities over time. Manny's thoughts also turned to his mother, Dionysia, now in her 70s and living comfortably thanks to his success. She had sacrificed so much during his childhood, working tirelessly to provide for the family despite their extreme poverty. The idea of her having to worry about his health felt like a burden he wished he could spare her from carrying. The boxing gym in General Santos City occupied a special place in his concerns. Training young fighters and sharing his knowledge had become one of his greatest sources of satisfaction in recent years. These aspiring boxers looked up to him not just as a champion, but as proof that someone from their circumstances could achieve greatness. How would his condition affect his ability to mentor them effectively? As they approached his neighborhood, Manny noticed the familiar security checkpoint and the guards who had known him for years. Their respectful greetings and genuine smiles reminded him of the responsibility he carried as a public figure. Millions of Filipinos had drawn inspiration from his journey from poverty to international recognition. Now he faced the challenge of showing them how to handle adversity with the same grace and determination he had always tried to demonstrate. The car pulled into his driveway, where the manicured gardens and comfortable home represented everything his family had built together. Inside, life continued with its normal rhythms, unaware that this day had introduced new considerations that would shape their future in ways they were only beginning to understand. The familiar sounds of home greeted Manny as he stepped through the front door of their Makati residence. From the kitchen came the gentle clatter of dishes and the aromatic blend of garlic and ginger that always meant Jinky was preparing something special. Laughter echoed from the living room, where Queen Elizabeth and Israel were engaged in what sounded like a spirited video game competition, their voices rising and falling with the excitement of teenage rivalry. Manny paused in the foyer, allowing himself a moment to absorb the normalcy of his family's evening routine. The medical reports in his jacket seemed to carry their own weight, creating an invisible barrier between his current knowledge and the peaceful ignorance his family still enjoyed. He wondered how long he could maintain this protective silence before the reality of his situation would need to be shared. Princess appeared at the top of the stairs, her school uniform slightly rumpled from a long day of classes. She waved enthusiastically before disappearing back into her room, probably to tackle homework or chat with friends online. The casual nature of her greeting struck him as particularly precious. These ordinary moments of family life that required no special effort or consciousness just the natural flow of people who loved each other living in the same space. Moving toward the kitchen, Manny observed Jinky as she worked, her movements efficient and graceful after years of managing their household while he traveled for fights, political commitments, and business obligations. She had developed an intuitive awareness of his presence and moods, often sensing his emotional state before he had fully processed it himself. Today, he noticed her glance toward him with the slight questioning look she wore when something felt different, but not yet identifiable. The evening light streaming through their large windows cast everything in warm, golden tones that made their home feel particularly welcoming. Family photos lined the walls and filled the surfaces, images from championship fights, family vacations, formal political events, and casual moments at home. Each photograph represented a chapter in their shared story, and Manny found himself wondering how the next chapters might look different from what they had originally imagined. Jimuel and Michael arrived home within minutes of each other, both carrying the energy and obligations of young men, building their own careers and relationships. They greeted their father with the comfortable familiarity of sons who had grown up watching him handle pressure and responsibility with steady determination. Neither seemed to notice anything unusual in his demeanor, which both relieved and concerned him. He had always prided himself on being transparent with his children, but this situation felt more complex than previous challenges they had faced together. The dinner table conversation flowed with its usual mixture of school updates, business discussions, and family planning. Queen Elizabeth talked about an upcoming school project, while Israel shared his latest achievements in basketball practice. Princess mentioned plans with friends for the weekend, and Jinky coordinated everyone's schedules with the organizational skills that kept their busy household functioning smoothly. Throughout the meal, Manny participated fully in the discussions while simultaneously processing the implications of his medical consultation. He found himself studying each family member with renewed attention, noting details he might have previously taken for granted. The way Jinky's eyes crinkled when she laughed at Israel's jokes, Princess's animated hand gestures when she described her friends, Queen Elizabeth's serious concentration when listening to adult conversations. After dinner, as the family dispersed to their evening activities, Manny retreated to his home office. The quiet space, lined with boxing memorabilia and family photographs, had always been his sanctuary for reflection and decision-making. Tonight, it served as a place to begin processing how Dr. Santos's information would reshape their family's future. He thought about the gradual nature of the changes he might experience, how subtle adjustments in his cognitive abilities could affect his business decisions, his mentoring of young boxers, and his interactions with political colleagues. The uncertainty felt different from the clear objectives he had always pursued in boxing, politics, and business, where success could be measured in concrete terms. The sounds of his family settling into their evening routines drifted through the house, homework discussions, phone calls with friends, and the gentle movements of people comfortable in their shared space, unaware that tomorrow might bring conversations that would change how they understood their future together. Sleep eluded Manny that night as he lay beside Jinky, listening to her steady breathing and the familiar sounds of their neighborhood settling into quietude. The digital clock on his nightstand marked the passing hours: 11:47 p.m., 12:23 a.m., 1:15 a.m., each increment representing another cycle of thoughts about Dr. Santos's words and their implications for everything he held dear. Rising carefully to avoid disturbing his wife, Manny made his way through the darkened house to his home gym. The space, equipped with a heavy bag, speed bag, and various training equipment, had served as his personal retreat for years. Even in retirement from professional competition, he maintained his fitness routine here, finding that physical movement helped clarify his thinking during challenging times. Under the soft glow of a single lamp, he began a gentle workout routine, not the intense training sessions of his competitive years, but measured movements that helped his body process stress while his mind worked through complex emotions. Each punch against the heavy bag carried the weight of his concerns about the future, while the rhythmic sound provided a familiar comfort that had anchored him through countless previous challenges. The walls around him displayed photographs and memorabilia from his boxing career, images from fights in Las Vegas, New York, and Manila, championship belts, promotional posters, and candid shots with trainers. promoters, and fellow fighters. Tonight, these mementos felt like artifacts from a different lifetime, representing a period when his physical capabilities had seemed limitless and his future had appeared clearly defined by wins, losses, and championship opportunities. One photograph in particular drew his attention, a shot from his early professional days when he was still a young man from General Santos City with dreams bigger than his circumstances. The image showed him in a cramped training facility, working with minimal equipment but maximum determination. That young fighter could never have imagined the journey that lay ahead, the championships he would win, the impact he would have on his country, or the complex medical realities he would face decades later. Manny's thoughts turned to his father, Rosalio, who had passed away years earlier. He wondered what advice his father might have offered about handling this kind of uncertainty. Rosalio had lived through his own challenges with quiet dignity, working multiple jobs to support the family and never complaining about the difficulties they faced. Perhaps this situation called for the same steady acceptance his father had demonstrated throughout his life. The memory of his mother, Dionysia, brought both comfort and concern. She had sacrificed so much during his childhood, often going without food so her children could eat. Her strength during those desperate times had taught him about resilience and determination. Now, the thought of worrying her with news about his health felt like a burden he wished he could spare her from carrying. As dawn approached, Manny found himself thinking about the young boxers he trained at his gym in General Santos City. These aspiring fighters looked to him not just for technical instruction, but for proof that someone from their background could achieve greatness through dedication and hard work. His role as a mentor had become increasingly important to him, and he wondered how his condition might affect his ability to guide them effectively in the future. The business enterprises he and Jinky had built together, from real estate ventures to various commercial investments, represented security for his family's future. Dr. Santos had mentioned that stress management would be crucial for his health, and Manny began considering which responsibilities he might need to delegate or modify to protect his well-being while maintaining their financial stability. By the time the first hints of sunrise appeared through the gym windows, Manny had reached a tentative decision about how to proceed. The conversation with his family couldn't be delayed indefinitely, but it needed to be approached with the same careful planning he had applied to major fights throughout his career. The timing, the setting, and the way he presented the information would all affect how his loved ones processed and responded to this new reality. The house began to stir with the sounds of another day beginning. Alarm clocks, shower running, and the familiar morning routines that had structured their family life for years. The morning sun cast familiar patterns across the breakfast table as the Pacquiao family gathered for their usual start to the day. Jinky moved efficiently between the kitchen and dining room, ensuring everyone had their preferred morning meal while coordinating the day's schedules. The children discussed their plans, school presentations, basketball practice, and weekend activities, with the easy chatter of teenagers comfortable in their secure family environment. Manny observed this daily ritual with heightened awareness, noting details that might have escaped his attention on any other morning. The way Queen Elizabeth carefully organized her school materials, Israel's animated description of his upcoming basketball tournament, and Princess's thoughtful questions about current events all seemed particularly significant today. These ordinary moments of family life had taken on new meaning since his conversation with Dr. Santos. Throughout breakfast, Jinky occasionally glanced in his direction with the subtle concern that came from years of reading his moods and emotions. She had always possessed an intuitive understanding of when something was weighing on his mind, even when he hadn't yet found the words to express his concerns. Today, her gentle attention felt both comforting and challenging. He knew that delaying the conversation would only increase her worry without providing any of the context she needed to understand the situation. After the children departed for school and their various activities, the house settled into the quieter rhythm of mid-morning. Jinky began her daily routine of managing their business communications and household affairs, while Manny found himself unable to focus on his usual morning reviews of financial reports and upcoming appointments. The medical documents from Dr. Santos remained in his jacket pocket, a constant reminder of the conversation that needed to happen. He watched Jinky as she worked at her laptop, Her concentration focused on what appeared to be correspondence about their real estate investments. Her competence in managing their business affairs had always impressed him, and he realized that her strength would be crucial in navigating whatever adjustments their family would need to make in response to his medical situation. The decision to begin with Jinky felt both natural and necessary. Throughout their marriage, she had been his closest advisor and emotional anchor during every major challenge they had faced. Her reaction would help him gauge how to approach the conversation with their children and his mother. More importantly, he needed her partnership in understanding the practical implications of Dr. Santos's recommendations for their family's future. Manny found himself rehearsing different ways to introduce the topic, considering how to balance honesty about his condition with reassurance about their stability and future together. The medical terminology felt foreign and clinical, but the human implications were deeply personal and emotional. He wanted to present the information in a way that acknowledged the seriousness of the situation without creating unnecessary panic or despair. The morning light streaming through their living room windows highlighted family photographs that chronicled their journey together, from their early years when money was scarce but dreams were abundant, through the championship years when success brought new opportunities and responsibilities, to recent images showing them as an established family with grown children and secure foundations. As Jinky finished her morning work and began preparing for her afternoon appointments, Manny recognized that the moment for their conversation had arrived. The house was quiet, their schedules allowed for uninterrupted discussion, and he had reached the point where carrying this information alone had become more difficult than sharing it would be. The weight of Dr. Santos's words seemed to settle around him as he prepared to transform his private knowledge into a shared family reality that would reshape how they all understood their future together. The living room felt different as Manny approached Jinky, who was organizing papers at their coffee table. Sunlight filtered through the large windows, creating a warm atmosphere that contrasted with the gravity of the conversation he was about to initiate. He settled beside her on the familiar sofa where they had shared countless discussions about family decisions, business ventures, and life's various challenges over the years. Jinky immediately sensed the shift in his demeanor. Her hands stilled on the documents she had been reviewing, and her full attention turned to him with the intuitive awareness that had characterized their relationship since their early days together. The way she set aside her work and turned to face him completely demonstrated the deep understanding they had developed about when ordinary conversation was about to become something more significant. Manny began by explaining his visit to Dr. Santos, carefully outlining the medical assessments and tests that had led to yesterday's consultation. He described the neurological evaluations, the brain scans, and the various cognitive assessments that had been conducted over recent months. As he spoke, he watched Jinky's expression change from curiosity to concern, then to the focused attention she always brought to serious family matters. The medical terminology felt awkward in his mouth as he tried to convey what Dr. Santos had explained about neurological changes associated with his boxing career. He described how years of professional fighting, despite all safety precautions and medical supervision, had left measurable impacts on his brain function. The doctor's emphasis on monitoring, lifestyle adjustments, and preventive care became central points in his explanation to Jinky. Throughout his account, Jinky listened with the same steady composure she had shown during his most challenging fights and political campaigns. Her questions were thoughtful and practical about the progression of symptoms, treatment options, and the implications for their daily life. She asked about Dr. Santos's recommendations for follow-up care, lifestyle modifications, and the timeline for various adjustments they might need to make. As they discussed the situation, Manny felt the relief that came from sharing a burden he had carried alone since leaving the hospital. Jinky's response demonstrated why she had always been his most trusted advisor and emotional anchor. Rather than expressing panic or despair, she approached the information with the same analytical thinking she applied to their business decisions and family planning. Together, they began considering the practical implications of Dr. Santos's recommendations. They discussed how to modify his travel schedule to reduce stress, which business responsibilities might need to be delegated, and how to adjust his training routines with young boxers to accommodate his changing capabilities. The conversation revealed how naturally they functioned as a team, when facing challenges that affected their family's future. The question of telling their children became a central focus of their discussion. They considered the ages and maturity levels of each child, thinking about how to present the information in ways that would be honest without being overwhelming. Jimuel and Michael, as adults, would need comprehensive explanations, while the younger children would require age-appropriate discussions that emphasized stability and continuity rather than uncertainty and change. Jinky's strength throughout their conversation reminded Manny why he had always felt capable of facing any challenge with her partnership. Her practical questions about medical care, her thoughtful consideration of their children's needs, and her immediate focus on solutions rather than problems demonstrated the resilience that had helped their family navigate every previous difficulty. As their discussion continued, the weight that had pressed on Manny since leaving Dr. Santos's office began to feel more manageable, transformed from a private burden into a shared challenge they would face together. That evening, as dinner concluded and the usual post-meal activities began, Manny and Jinky exchanged meaningful glances across the table. They had spent the afternoon planning their approach to sharing the medical news with their children, deciding to begin with Jimuel and Michael before addressing the younger ones. The strategy felt similar to preparing for a major fight: careful planning, consideration of all variables, and execution with confidence and clarity. Jimuel and Michael responded to their parents' request for a private conversation with the respectful attention they had always shown during family discussions. In the familiar setting of their father's home office, surrounded by boxing memorabilia and family photographs, the two young men settled into chairs as Manny began explaining the situation with the same measured approach he had used with Jinky earlier that day. Both sons listened intently as their father described Dr. Santos's findings and recommendations. Their initial expressions of concern gradually transformed into thoughtful consideration as they processed the information and its implications for their family's future. Michael asked detailed questions about the medical prognosis, while Jimuel focused on practical matters like adjustments to their father's business schedule and public appearances. The conversation revealed the maturity both young men had developed through years of being part of a high-profile family that faced various challenges in the public eye. Rather than expressing alarm or distress, they approached their father's condition with the same analytical thinking they had learned from watching their parents handle previous difficulties. Their questions were intelligent and caring, demonstrating genuine concern balanced with practical problem-solving instincts. As the discussion progressed, Manny felt pride in how his sons responded to challenging news. They immediately began thinking about ways they could provide additional support for family responsibilities and business operations. Jimuel offered to take on more involvement in their boxing gym operations, while Michael suggested assuming greater responsibility for some of their real estate ventures. The following day brought the more delicate conversation with Princess, Queen Elizabeth, and Israel. Manny and Jinky had carefully considered how to present the information in ways that would be honest without creating unnecessary worry. They emphasized that their father's condition required monitoring and some lifestyle adjustments, but didn't pose immediate dramatic changes to their family life. Princess, with her characteristic thoughtfulness, asked perceptive questions about what the changes might mean for their father's various activities. Queen Elizabeth, always practical, wanted to understand specific ways she could help around the house or with family responsibilities. Israel, focused on his basketball aspirations, sought reassurance that his father would still be able to attend his games and provide guidance on his athletic development. The younger children's responses demonstrated the security they felt within their family structure. Their questions reflected curiosity and concern, but not fear or panic. They had grown up seeing their parents handle various challenges with steady determination, and this situation felt like another problem their family would solve together through cooperation and mutual support. Throughout these family conversations, Manny observed how naturally each family member began adjusting their thinking to accommodate this new reality. Without being asked, they started considering modifications to schedules, responsibilities, and expectations that would support their father's health while maintaining the family's various commitments and activities. The process of sharing Dr. Santos's information had transformed it from a private burden into a family challenge that would be faced collectively. Each family member's response reinforced Manny's confidence that they possessed the strength, love, and practical wisdom necessary to navigate whatever adjustments lay ahead, while preserving the close relationships and shared values that had always defined their life together. 3 weeks had passed since the family conversations that transformed Dr. Santos's private medical assessment into shared knowledge and collective determination. The Pacquiao household had settled into modified routines that accommodated Manny's health requirements while maintaining the warmth and energy that had always characterized their home life. Manny's daily schedule now included more structured rest periods and reduced travel commitments. The boxing gym in General Santos City operated with increased assistance from Jimyul, who had embraced his expanded role in training young fighters with enthusiasm and natural teaching ability. Michael had assumed greater responsibility for their business operations, demonstrating the same attention to detail and strategic thinking that had made their various enterprises successful. The conversation with his mother, Dionysia, had proven easier than anticipated. Her response reflected the wisdom and resilience she had developed through decades of facing life's challenges with quiet strength. Rather than expressing worry or distress, she had embraced the information as simply another situation requiring practical adjustments and family cooperation. Her acceptance provided Manny with additional confidence about managing his condition while maintaining his various commitments and relationships. Regular follow-up appointments with Dr. Santos had become routine parts of Manny's healthcare schedule. Each visit reinforced the importance of the lifestyle modifications they had implemented, while providing reassurance that proper monitoring and preventive care could help maintain his quality of life for years to come. The medical team's optimistic but realistic approach helped the entire family understand that this condition represented a manageable challenge rather than an insurmountable obstacle. The younger children had adapted to their father's modified schedule with remarkable flexibility. Princess had taken on additional responsibilities around the house. Queen Elizabeth had become more involved in organizing family activities, and Israel continued pursuing his basketball aspirations with his father's steady guidance and encouragement. Their easy acceptance of the changes demonstrated the security they felt within their family's strong foundation. Jinky's partnership throughout this transition had reinforced everything Manny valued about their marriage. Her practical approach to managing the adjustments, combined with her emotional support during moments of uncertainty, had made every aspect of adapting to his condition feel achievable rather than overwhelming. Evening family dinners had taken on enhanced significance as opportunities for everyone to share their daily experiences and coordinate upcoming activities. These gatherings reflected the same closeness they had always enjoyed, but with deeper appreciation for the time they shared together and the strength they derived from their mutual support. As Manny reflected on the weeks since receiving Dr. Santos's news, he recognized that the experience had ultimately strengthened rather than weakened their family bonds. The challenge had revealed their collective resilience and reinforced their commitment to facing whatever difficulties might arise through cooperation, love, and practical problem-solving. The future remained unwritten, but it would be authored by a family united in their determination to make the most of every day they shared together, supported by the same values and relationships that had guided them through every previous challenge in their remarkable journey together.